All of a sudden you've got Ben Shapiro being like, you're anti-Semitic. It's like, son, sit this one out. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're a child, actually. Stop lying to me and telling me that we're going to defeat the Houthis. And you're going to try and shut me up by calling me a hater? I don't think that's going to work.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. If you're watching this video and it's Salah time, please pause it and go pray and come back when you're done. Please check out the description section of this video to support the channel. So with the Yemeni militant group, the Houthis, striking Israel in the last 24 hours, tensions have been really high as usual in that region. Ben Shapiro has been going into propaganda overdrive in order to once again drag America into a conflict with Yemen, even taking shots at US alternative media personalities like Tucker Carlson, who is using his platform to do the exact opposite, and that is calling for America to stay out of international conflicts on behalf of foreign nations, which of course doesn't sit well with Ben Shapiro. But before we look into Shapiro's comments and Tucker's response to them, let's just take a quick look at Tucker Carlson's general stance on US involvement in the Middle East on behalf of Israel.
Let's take a minute on the Houthis and Iran.
Yes.
I mean, there is definitely a faction of people who would love to see the green light on either us hitting Iran or just backing Israel and it hitting Iran. And the Houthis are backed by Iran, so that was playing with fire. I just wonder, I haven't heard you speak directly to that attack, which I know you're against. So can you talk about that a bit?
I think Iran is a threat to Israel. I think it's a threat to the Gulf states. All 6 of them, we're allied with those countries. I think they've been really good partners for us. And any strike on Iran could potentially spin into a much wider, potentially global conflict. The water supply for every country in the region comes from the Gulf. So if you blow up a nuclear site and you pollute the Persian Gulf, then you've got 6 of the richest countries in the world with no water. The huge percentage of global energy goes through that piece of water to the West, to Europe and the United States and to the world. And so if you shut that down, you're looking at global oil price, you're looking at $25 a gallon gasoline, right? So that's the fastest, most destructive kind of inflation that percolates down through the whole economy, because the price of energy determines the price of pretty much everything, because energy makes civilization possible. It's hard to affect regime change in countries you're not from. It's hard to know what the consequences will be. We've tampered in that country extensively. It hasn't worked at all. It's been counterproductive. And that's also true of neighboring countries, Iraq, Syria right now, Libya. I mean, just name the country. Like, regime change is hard to pull off, okay? If you had a hand in the Iraq war, if you had a hand in the Syria disaster, if you had a hand in killing Gaddafi, if you had a hand in Afghanistan, if you lied about what happened on 9/11, and that's pretty much everybody in DC and the foreign policy establishment, you can no longer participate in the decision-making process about where to send arms and money around the world, because you are disqualified. Your track record is so repugnant. We're not going to throw you in jail, though you clearly deserve it. We are instead just going to take you out of the conversation because you are demonstrably unqualified to get us into new wars, because you screwed it up last time. I don't think that's a terrible standard. That's like a really straightforward standard. And I know that none of them has ever apologized or changed his thinking, repented. We should make that a absolute unyielding requirement for our leaders. But if you refuse to do that, we're never trusting you again. And that's our entire foreign policy establishment.
As you saw, Tucker Carlson, despite recognizing possible complications with Iran, is against going to war with them for very sensible reasons that not only affect the US, but also 6 Muslim Gulf nations, as well as having huge negative implications worldwide due to the global energy supply coming from that part of the Middle East. I think this is a completely level-headed and reasonable take. Tucker also made the valid point that America has failed miserably numerous times to not only influence regime change in Iran, but also in Iraq, Syria, Libya, and Afghanistan, to name a few, that resulted in the unaliving of millions of people. I also liked how Tucker called out the politicians involved in those conflicts as having no right to dictate the current foreign supply of American funding and arms due to their blatant dishonesty, total incompetency, and outright criminal track record. I completely agree. Ben Shapiro, on the other hand, doesn't. Let's find out why.
I've never said word one about what's happening in Gaza, okay? I have views on it. I'm not impressed at all, but I've tried to pull back because it's not my country, okay? So I'm just looking at it from an American perspective. I don't want my country to be further weakened, my fellow citizens to die yet again, my federal treasury to be drained yet again on behalf of an idea that's clearly stupid. Like, I think it's important to say, wait a second, is this a good idea? Can we actually do what you say we can do? For doing that, I have been attacked as a tool of Iran. I'm a freaking Episcopalian. I am not Shiite as a tool of Qatar, who's like one of our closest allies in the world. The largest American air base in the Middle East is in Qatar. They're a close ally of ours. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're taking Qatari money. I've never taken a dollar from any government. I mean, are you joking? And these are people who are acting on behalf of a foreign government telling me that I'm unpatriotic. And I try not to get crazy angry about it, but it's hard because you see these people, Ben Shapiro or these shills come out and attack you personally because
he was bashing you just this week.
But it's what's so infuriating is I'm 56 in 2 weeks. So I've watched this. I was in Iraq. I have a good memory and I was there for a lot of this stuff. And I have unresolved rage for the reasons I just explained. No one's apologized, no one's repented, no one's changed. And so to attack me is I'm selling out my country, which is the only thing I care about. I don't have another passport. I have no plans to go anywhere. I could certainly afford to move some other country. I'm not. So to attack me as a shill for another country, when you yourself are shilling for another country, it's almost too much for my tiny brain to deal with, actually. But how much better would it be if he could just sit and say, okay, here's what I think would happen if we joined an attack on Iran, or stop lying to me and telling me that we're going to defeat the Houthis. The whole point of getting involved in a war with the Houthis is to suck us into a war with Iran. Like, I know that because I know a lot about this topic. So don't patronize me and lie to me. Just be straightforward and say, I think we can affect regime change in Iran. Here's how we can do it. And then I could say, well, here are my concerns. But
I'm
instead it's like,
for the following reasons.
You're weak. You know, you don't love America. I don't love America? Really?
Yeah.
It's too much. I can't deal with it.
But he was definitely suggesting that you were, I can't remember. I just saw it in passing in a headline, so I don't want to try to do something about the Russia.
I'm a peacenik.
Well, I mean, what's wrong with being a peacenik? Frankly,
yeah,
like,
I mean, I'm not
great. It's kind of the time for peaceniks after 20 years of endless war and a lot of blood and treasure sacrificed for very little results.
Well, I kind of feel that way. And okay, first of all, I'm an American citizen. I can like anyone I want. Doesn't mean I'm unpatriotic. Actually, I would have questions about the patriotism of anybody who wants to get us into a war that's going to kill more Americans that we can't win and that serves no obvious purpose. So like the whole way of debating it drives me bonkers. It's like personal. It's attacking people's character. It's attacking their loyalty to the nation. I thought that's what the left did. And it's also, by the way, in favor of censorship. Like, oh, I don't know if you should platform people with those views. What?
So as you heard, Tucker Carlson is a neutral when it comes to what's going on in Gaza. He stated that even though he doesn't agree with what's happening, he's held back and only commented from the perspective of how it affects his own country. Hence why he doesn't want America to weaken their economy or his fellow citizens to be harmed as a result of fighting in a foreign conflict on behalf of Israel. Once again, for merely maintaining a balanced anti-war stance, Tucker claims to have been accused of working for Iran or Qatar by the likes of Ben Shapiro. So Tucker was absolutely justified in calling Shapiro out for being the hypocritical, spineless shell he is. The projection is mind-blowing because Shapiro, as we all know, a supposed American, literally is on the Israeli payroll doing the exact same thing he's accusing Tucker Carlson of doing. Sounds to me like Tucker simply has the best interests of America in mind, unlike Shapiro, who Tucker claimed is trying to hoodwink the American government into starting a war with the Houthis and Iran on behalf of Ben's beloved Israel. What else can I say except that Ben Shapiro is a diabolical manipulator and a malevolent war merchant? Even Megyn Kelly, a staunch right-leaning commentator, agreed with Tucker, acknowledging that there's nothing wrong with advocating for peace. And Tucker was spot on when he said that Ben Shapiro does not have a leg to stand on when questioning anyone's loyalty to America, when Shapiro himself is a total sellout, putting Israel before the US, while desperately trying to drag them into Israel's war to their complete detriment. Even resorting to the underhanded tactics of using censorship, false allegations, and ad hominem attacks in the process. Let's watch the last clip.
But what you said is also true about what's happening in Gaza. You know, I've been very pro-Israel on this show after the 10/7 attack, and then I haven't been following the day-to-day, bombing campaign. But I have noticed that, the people who have problems with what Israel is doing too often get the knee-jerk, you're an anti-Semite. And that's not okay either. It's like, it is totally fine to criticize Israel and to think that they've gone too far and that they've been too, non-judicious in this retaliatory campaign. You cannot dismiss anybody who feels that way and who is really critical of how Israel's handled itself as an anti-Semite. But that gets collapsed too into like one of those narratives one cannot espouse. You are not allowed to say that.
It's a very powerful slur, but I don't want the United States to enter in another unwinnable Middle Eastern war. I just really, really don't, especially now. We don't even have the ammo for it. I have been attacked in ways that are so crazy that and it's totally coordinated from Israel. So the other day, I called someone I know in the Israeli government and I said, stop this. And by the way, it's our weapons being used
No, I know you have.
in Gaza. So I have every right to say, you have a dispute with your neighbor and you want to get medieval on him, do it on your own dime. Do it with your own weapons. I'm not paying for that. And these creepy people taking direct orders from a foreign government are attacking me on the internet, and I wouldn't care except this specific slur affects my personal life. So they've gotten to me. So that's made me upset. So I called up and I was like, you guys got to stop. We're not doing that. And I was like, if you think I'm your main enemy in a world that really hates you, I mean, they're right about that. A lot of people really do hate Israel. I'm not one of them. Mm-hmm. If you think I'm the problem, you've gone off the deep end. You're insane. I am showing restraint. And the only thing, I've done one segment on the whole topic, and it's on Christians in the Holy Land. And I have a right to say, I don't think that U.S. tax dollars should be used to mistreat Christians. And by the way, my real contempt is not for Israel. It's for the American evangelical preachers who ignore this, the Christian Zionists who think it's okay to blow up a church because their weird theology, which is demonstrably not in the New Testament. But whatever, I'm mad at them. I did one segment on that. In this specific case, I think we are being robbed of the debate that we need over our foreign policy over foreign influence on our politics, which is absolutely profound, and it's not coming from Russia, it's coming from Israel. You can't even say that out loud. We should talk openly and not leave it to the crazy people. Responsible, normal, non-hateful people should have an open conversation about what the right next steps are,
and the risks.
In all kinds of different theaters and the risks. That's exactly right. And you can't, because all of a sudden you've got Ben Shapiro being like, oh, you're sucking up to Putin. You're anti-Semitic. It's like, son, sit this one out. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're a child, actually. And you're reading talking points that discredit you. But when you are unwilling to criticize a foreign government at all, it tells the rest of us what you're saying isn't real. It's all I do is criticize the U.S. government. But you're not going to criticize a foreign government? What are you talking about? Who wrote these rules, man? And you're going to try and shut me up by calling me a hater when I'm not? And if I were, I would just say so? I don't think that's going to work.
It can't work on an anti-Semitism charge either. Like, we have to be able to talk about Israel and Iran very honestly.
It shows that people really are waking up to the truth when Megyn Kelly, who is pro-Israel, admitted that the Israelis have gone too far and that criticising their oppression and brutality against Palestinians is not anti-Semitism, but instead is a justified position to take. What's interesting is Tucker Carlson not only doesn't want America to get involved in yet another Middle Eastern war, he also doesn't think they will win. I link that back to what he said in the first clip when he stated that the US don't have the resources to fight a war with Iran, and the Gulf nations have too much to lose in terms of their total water supply being polluted by nuclear waste, as well as every country in the world suffering as a result due to inflation and energy prices surging upwards. The only country that benefits from a war with the Houthis and Iran is Israel, and they know without help from America, it's not a war they can win either. Tucker's right. If Israel wants to start wars all over the Middle East, let them fight them by themselves. And like Tucker said, America should completely pull all funding and supply of arms from Israel and invest that money back into their own country. However, with their compromised politicians squirming under the thumb of Zionist lobbyists, it's highly unlikely that the US will do so. What's crazy is despite Tucker's extremely neutral stance, he's being targeted and harassed by Israel as if he's their enemy just because he's putting the interests of his own country over theirs. Again, I think his position is quite sensible as it promotes world peace. Credits to Tucker for also calling out pathetic American Christian Zionist sellouts for backing an ideology that not only harms their core religionists but also destroys their places of worship. Once again, this man was spot on when he said honest conversations need to take place to find real solutions that benefit everyone involved and not just Israel, excluding bad actors like Ben Shapiro who are only interested in spewing manipulative propaganda at the peacemakers on behalf of his Zio masters. As a Muslim, I honestly wish Islamic nations in the Gulf were doing more in terms of sanctioning the US and Israel to stop the genocide in Palestine and all these additional conflicts. But since the leaders of Muslim nations are sitting back and allowing this to take place, I welcome anybody, especially people with a platform and reach Tucker Carlson has, calling for an end to senseless violence in the Middle East because of Israel. And if the Israelis want to continue to wage endless wars in the region in order to achieve their goals of expansion and control, then let them fight those battles themselves. Or better yet, send Ben Shapiro and every last Zionist in America and all over the world to go and fight on their behalf instead of dragging others into doing their dirty work. Without the backing of Europe and America, Israel would face catastrophic failure and certain defeat. However, that would be a far better outcome than millions more lives lost through others fighting on their behalf, taking part in the massacre of civilian populations in the Middle East. Thank you for watching. Make sure to join my free Telegram group via the link in the description, and remember to like, subscribe and become a channel member for access to exclusive content. Until next time, inshallah, Jazakallah khair.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.